Welcome back to Mark Haney, igniting the entrepreneurial revolution with the Haney Biz Project.
Welcome back to the Haney Biz Project, brought to you courtesy of Hub International and Legion AVS. I'm Mark Haney, and today I am here with California's 7th District seat in the U.S. House of Representatives candidate. Wow, long title there that we created for you. Mr. Andrew Grant is in the house. How you doing, Andrew?
I'm doing very well. Thank you very much. Great to be here.
This is not a political show, but this is a show about winning. So we want to get your background. You have had some W's in your life, and now you're trying to take that to help the rest of us along in your quest to become a congressman. But give us a little bit of your background. Let's get to who is Andrew Grant?
Well, Andrew Grant is first and foremost, I guess, proud husband. Wife of 20 years, wonderful woman. She and I grew up together in Clayton, which is in the East Bay in California. Father of 3, 2 boys and a little girl. And I will tell you, anyone who hasn't had a girl in their lives, man, it's just so amazing.
So you started off with the boys and everything was good, and then
Yep.
the girl came and changed everything in a positive way.
It changed my life in a better, absolutely in a better way. Yeah, so many lessons there.
I started off with a girl.
Resident of Folsom, California, part of the district, which includes a lot of the communities on, I'd say, the south side of Sacramento, all the way down to Elk Grove and Galt. But at this point, I'm focusing exclusively as a candidate, so that's what I'm doing every day.
Well, your background, right? We know you have a military background. We think about who we want representing us, but we want somebody who has the same core values, I think, as us, and many times. Talk to us about your Marine experience, and I know your core values, right? They're aligned. I probably right on with Marcus. He's also a Marine. Talk to us about those values and how you envision bringing that experience to the job.
Sure. Well, maybe Marcus can appreciate this. God, country, and core. That's what we used to learn. So, Semper Fi. But anyone who's running for office like this has to, I think, have a firm belief and faith in their country. That has to be first and foremost. They have to feel like they're doing the right thing. And I truly feel like I'm doing the right thing, not just for the family I described, but for the entire community.
Well, you turn on the news these days, and it makes you think the world's going to heck, and it's all this bad news. I mean, is everything's gonna be okay?
Everything's going to be perfectly fine. I hear bad news all the time as a candidate for Congress. Of course, people want to tell me what the frustrations are around government and America and their community. But I wake up every day in California. California is the place where more people have served in our armed forces than any other state. People don't understand that. It's the place that the money coming from the gold from California won the Civil War, the Civil War that divided us as a nation more than any other time. So there's many amazing things about California that I remind myself of, and I love my state and I love my country. So that's why I'm here.
Well, I mean, you're so committed to this, right? We think about core values, and a lot of it is don't quit, where some people might think, well, maybe it's time to quit on California. You're redoubling your commitment to the state that is not as popular in the way of business around the country, but you're saying we can do this.
I'm totally saying we can do this. I hear every single day from many, many companies, they have one foot in another state. They're frustrated. They're angry with the politics. They're angry with the business climate in California. And I go back to them. Every single time I hear that, I go back to them and I say, let's stay. Let's work together. Let's figure this out. Of course, there's a lot of costs. There's realities of living in California. And part of those stewardship responsibilities in California are not going to change tomorrow. But I think we can adjust. I think we can work it out to where their promises here are fulfilled just as much as any other state.
Well, let's just put politics to a side, right? There are my friends are the small business guys of California, of Sacramento and the region. That's who I think listens to this show. And we're in the middle of trying to run our businesses. What should we be doing? Obviously, we got to vote, but I mean, is there anything else that we should be doing as business owners to make sure that we help California, help Sacramento?
Well, for the entire small business community especially, and I owned a small business for a couple of years right in this community, it's really important that they get their message out there, that they be clear about what they agreed to and what they don't agree to. There's been many recent legislative decisions, regulation decisions that cost and direct cost. And, a lot of public policy people need to be reminded that as business people, we have choices. We have choices to make on whether we stay here or whether we don't. I remember one conversation around, it was after the BP oil spill, and I was down in Alabama representing really to the state of Alabama, the U.S. government as part of my role. And I was listening to this conversation between two people, And there was a frustration around the oil drills that were in the Gulf of Mexico. And the frustration was that, what are you going to do? You're going to hold these drills here and not let them drill? And the person who was involved, they were part of the decision-making on where those drills would go, said, no, actually, they're gone. Well, where did they go? Oh, they went to China. They're actually drilling in China right now. Now, not everyone agrees with oil drilling. I understand that. But the fact is, a business has to move and adjust to the market. They made a decision a long time ago. They didn't keep those drills stopped. They kept them going, and they moved them to another place because the market opportunities are there. So I remind people all the time who are thinking about their businesses, you do have choices. Let's build a market design around what's in our community. Let's support our businesses and make sure they don't take that step to go to another place.
Well, thinking about the recent news, just announced was some sort of tariff put upon steel and aluminum as it comes into the country. I mean, you're an international business guy. I mean, what do you see in terms of like the economy as a whole right now, and the things that are happening in national politics that are helping in some ways and maybe be hurting business a little bit in ways?
Sure. So a couple things that I do like about the current conversation, because nothing's concluded yet, especially with these tariffs. First of all, if anyone looks closely at this, they see that for many years, China was dumping steel into Mexico and selling it through NAFTA into the U.S., costing businesses that were here. Clearly a problem. We went to the WTO, went to the organizations that were supposed to enforce compliance, and that never happened. So what the administration is trying to say is, look, until we hold these people accountable, we're going to do something about it and try to help businesses that are here. Another similar conversation is the question around NAFTA and the recent decision, or the previous decision, to go ahead and not support the Trans-Pacific Partnership, another agreement. In NAFTA, in this particular case, why can't we try and push for more content being sold from what's being manufactured in the U.S. versus what's being manufactured in Mexico and Canada? I have no problem with supporting strong negotiations to support U.S. wage earners, to support businesses here. At the end of the day, I think NAFTA is a great established agreement, but do I think it can be improved through these kinds of tough negotiations? I would support that.
Well, I think most of us supported tax reform, especially as business guys. Hey, everybody who's got their taxes reduced, we end up with a little more money in the bank. I'm a food guy. Like, how do I put food on the table for my family? So I love that. But you are tied to the national ticket in a way, I suppose. And you've got a president that. I was thinking give him a TUI, tweeting while under the influence, right? You see the crazy stuff that is occasionally comes off of his phone, I suppose, and you are tied to that. What is? How can you? Do you lock up with that, or do you keep a distance?
No, I'm clear. When I support and agree with the administration, I let you know. When I don't, I let you know as well. Yeah. I mean, the Constitution clearly divides the responsibilities of Congress and the administration, the executive branch. And sometimes people are going to want me to simply focus on being that member of Congress and say what my voice is and what I stand on my own. And when I see something that I think supports this community, I'm going to be clear about that. Let me go back to the conversation about tax reform. This is the one sort of secret sauce that people don't understand about tax reform. It wasn't like it was only going to impact businesses here. When we were operating at a 35, upwards of 40% rate for taxes that were being taxed to our companies versus other countries, then we rolled it down to 21%. Mm-hmm. What we're really dealing with is a sort of holistic perspective, international business perspective of competing on a global scale. There are international businesses in our community, and every one of them. In fact, I was in Citrus Heights yesterday, part of the district. People don't know this. There are small businesses using e-commerce portals and other ways of being entrepreneurial, yes, who are selling to the world. For them to be able to compete with another company in China or another country with a lower tax rate, that's why tax reform was so essential. That's why we needed to do it. It makes us competitive.
Yeah. So just thinking about this, about how to win, right? You're in the process of going into a battle of sorts to unseat another player, right? It's about making a sale. What's the one thing we should take away from Andrew Grant as you go out to make this sale?
Well, I think the one thing is my sincerity and purpose behind this. There's no one that called me from Washington, D.C. and said, hey, you've got this great background and experience. We're going to support you as a candidate. I looked around. I looked for the circumstances that I wanted. I found they weren't there, and I felt like I could support this community representing them in Washington, D.C. That said, I do have a certain set of experiences both back there and in our community that I think would function well for someone in office. But at the end of the day, it's your values, it's your principles, it's what you stand for, and it's those things. The other thing, too, is I think anyone who meets me knows they can ask Grant anything. Grant will show up at everything. Grant will answer the questions. Grant is transparent. He's accountable. And part of that process, you talked about the man in the arena. And I have actually shared that with so many people. In fact, it was one of the first cards that I wrote. I wrote that into a card that I gave my wife a long, long time ago when we were dating. This is being accountable. This is being accountable for our generation and for future generations for our community. So that's who I am, and that's what I stand for.
Very straightforward. He is the man in the arena. I want to thank you for coming on the show, Andrew. I love your effort, your enthusiasm, and your values. When we return, I will be rejoined by Marcus Haney, hear a little bit about the rules he may or may not have broken in his time, and talk about his new business venture. Haney Industrial Supply is on the grow. Join the revolution at haneybiz.com, courtesy of the Entrepreneurs Organization of Sacramento and law firm Greenberg Traurig. This is the Haney Biz Project.